Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending now. Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies one bad movie at a time. I'm your host, Carrie Jarsinski, and today we're here with some of the holliest, jolliest film lovers I know, Mr. Tim Brayton and Mr. Brennan Klein. Here today to get you in the holiday spirit the only way AE knows how, with our picks for the worst Christmas movies ever.
I was going to say, nothing is holly or jolly about me, so thank you for that lie, Carrie. But what is true of me is that I like hating things, and this is a good episode for me.
Me too. I like hating things so much that I saw your schedule and burst open your proverbial doors with a battering ram and said, bring me the fuck onto this episode.
That is more or less precisely what happened, yes.
It is what happened. And we were glad for it because I do feel like misery loves company and I do enjoy the misery of being with both of you guys. So I'm very excited.
You're so sweet. Thank
that
you.
was such a terrible thing to say.
Was it? I was like,
God curse us, everyone.
It was intended to be a compliment, but Christmas is upon us. And if you're listening right now, in fact, it is Christmas Day. Right?
Or Boxing Day, or possibly someday in 2024, because these episodes are saved.
It's hard to know. Yeah.
But in theory, it is Christmas Day. So hopefully you all received exactly what you wanted. And if you didn't, hopefully you were able to find some passive aggressive way of really sticking it to the person who failed to give you that present, which is what I want for Christmas.
Of course.
And hopefully what you wanted is an episode of Alternate Ending, because we got you covered.
That's true. It's our gift to you.
There's Brennan keeping us on track just like that.
I know. I love it. And in fact, I was thinking about it before we joined. I struggled a little bit with Christmas gifts this year. Just kind of like, I always want to give that thing that I feel like, they're going to be like, oh, she really knows me or she's been listening to me. And I struggled this year because I don't think I've been caring about people enough this year. But do you guys have any exciting gifts? What are you most excited to give this year?
I spent $100 on cheese. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly for me, but my parents will be invited to look at it and say, that cheese seems a little too fancy for me. So that is my present to them, is the right to say no to my expensive cheese.
Wow. Well,
and I spent $100 on cheese, so I'm pretty much tapped out for buying anything else.
Yeah, that's the spirit of this episode, I'd say. Just hoarding your own cheese and having your parents just get a sniff. I think that seems about right. What about you, Brennan?
Well, one of the presents I gave my boyfriend Ben for Hanukkah was a fridge magnet I made out of a scene from the Disney Channel original musical Zombies, which he's been watching along with what Tim and I have been doing for Bride of Alternate Ending. There is actually there's a joke that he made about straining credulity that I repeated on the episode, and it is in honor of his incredible joke.
Oh, that is very, very nice. I think both of those gifts are interesting. And did not help me in any way. I was hoping you guys were going to be like, oh, I found this new technology thing that I could be like, oh, good, I'll go get that for Rob. But I don't think I can give him either of those things. So anyway.
I bought my parents 2 lovely woodcut ornaments from a Christmas mart in Madison, Wisconsin. That was one day only, so you missed your window.
Gosh.
But I can give you the guy's name, so you can have him give you one for next Christmas.
Okay.
Very, very attractive little laser cut wood ornaments.
Ooh,
sounds nice.
I also got Ben an American flag that has a picture of Jack Champion from Scream 6 printed over the top of it, so that might be useful for someone.
Also thoughtful, also very thoughtful. And Tim, also, we're on the heels of something very special, which is
when we were originally going to do this live episode, it was going to be the day before my birthday.
I know. How was it?
Quiet.
Okay.
It was quiet. I needed a low-key birthday this year, and
That's
I had
good.
one, so that was nice.
Did you get my gift to you yet?
No.
Did you not go to your website?
Are you doing a bit?
No. Do you not ever go to alternateending.com?
Oh yes, I saw that, and I was going to type a little thank you to everyone in the comments, and then I didn't because I'm tired all the time.
I see. Well,
I'm at this point like 14 days behind on reviewing The Boy and the Heron. Once I do that, I will thank everyone for the birthday gifts.
That's
fair. Or the birthday thoughts.
That's fair. But we were thinking about you, and I have another little thing, but it's kind of lame. So you'll get that next time I see you. But nevertheless, I'm excited to get into the holiday spirit. I did myself decide that I was going to get up the courage today to go and read in front of a third grade class for Alice, read a Christmas tale or some sort of book. And I had a lot of fears going in. I realized I probably have maybe some sort of like childhood experience that I'm like really afraid of elementary schoolers. And I was like, you know what? Push past it. I'm going to go in. These kids are going to love me. I'm hilarious. I'm funny. And I brought treats. So I was like, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, there you go. I mean, if you bring children sugar, you're their friend. It doesn't matter what else you do.
You would think that. So I went in. I'm only like a few hours after this, so I'm sort of still processing it along with you. But walked right in, heard somebody right out of the gate whisper, "Is that a grandma?"
No.
I kid you not. And then I was like, I'm going to let that go because maybe they didn't say that. Maybe I misheard because I'm self-conscious or something. So maybe I misheard. So I pushed through, sat down in front of all of the kids. I was really bubbly and fun and was like, which book do you want to read? And I had 3 books and was like, I'll choose, let's take a vote. And we did all of this stuff and I thought it was going to be really fun. Made it all the way through. Everyone was really into the book. I'm like, these kids are really sweet. I'm going to let go of that grandma comment. And then at the very end, almost scooting out, self-esteem still intact. But then the questions came. And they were like, does anyone have any questions for Alice's mom? First question out of the gate. How old are you?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I know. And I was
From the same one who called you a grandma?
I don't know. I still don't know the grandma comment or where it came from. So unknown. But I was like, you know what? Honesty is the best policy. So I was like, I'm 40 years old. And they're like, wow. Oh, okay. I was like, okay, let's go now. And they're like, more questions. We have more questions. They're like, is that your natural hair color?
What is
Literal
wrong with these children?
I don't know. Is that your natural hair color?
How is that even a question that's on the radar of third graders?
Because they were staring at my hair. These girls were front row staring at my hair. And I had done a little touch-ups. I had a little outgrowth. So I had done some touch-ups maybe
Third grade, that's 9, right?
Yeah, it's 9. Yeah. 9.
Are the 9-year-olds cynical now? I feel like when I was 9, we weren't.
I thought I was sweet and cute. I don't know. But it pressed on from there because I said, no, it is not. And then moved on. Press question again. What is your actual hair color? And I was like,
what is this school?
I don't know. And I was like, it's white. At this point, the teacher's horrified. So the teacher's chiming in and she's like, well, I bet it's a beautiful white. I bet it's a beautiful white color. I was like, not really.
Like Rogue in the X-Men.
I hope you just started leaning into it no, it's ditchwater gray.
It's ditchwater gray.
It's like a dead raccoon got scraped off the road and plastered on my head.
I was getting a little okay, where's this going to go from here? And then she continued to press on that. It turned into a whole explanation about how my hair went white when I was 18 years old. I was really young and that I don't have the skin texture to be able to pull it off. So I have to dye my hair. It turned into a whole explanation with a bunch of 9-year-olds.
I hate what is happening. I hate this.
I left.
I hope that every one of those children was spanked by their mother when they got home.
They'll probably never know, but I just decided honesty is the best policy. I'm going to roll with it. And then I left feeling ready for this episode, ready to think about my rage and anger.
My job in this world as to make your life unpleasant, and I still wouldn't go there. I would not do that.
I know.
That sounds
These are monsters.
They're vile little creatures.
Vile little creatures.
They're
So
wicked beasts.
all
This
I'm
is why
saying
I don't
is,
want any.
with our worst Christmas movies ever, I'm coming in with the Scrooge because at first I was feeling peppy and light. I was like, I'm feeling good. I'm doing a service to my daughter, going in and reading, and now I'm like, no. Now
you're just humbugging all over the place.
Right through. Indeed.
They're helping you be method. I think that's important.
That's good.
I agree.
Out of curiosity, what was the story you read?
So I brought, oh my gosh, don't even get me started on this too. I brought 3 books. I thought for sure they were going to pick the Polar Express, but I was like, just in case, I want to make sure not everyone celebrates Christmas. I just wanted to have a well-rounded thing. So I came in with the Polar Express. I came in with a book called Kind. It's about a lion that's really kind and like has to travel around the world and meet different types of people other than a lion. And
based on a real lion.
Based on a real lion story.
Is it a ripoff of Paddington but with a lion?
I don't know. I'm not sure,
okay.
But it's cute. It's cute. And I was like, please pick one of these 2. And then I had this like really flimsy, like cheap book that I just grabbed, and it was about a couch potato. It was just a potato. And it was just lots of potato wordplay. Like, hey, Spud, my dog's name is Tater. Like, it was just all potato wordplay. And
I can't get off the couch now, man. I'm fried.
You've read it. You've read the book. I see. So they opted for the potato book. I was like,
of course they did.
Of course they did. So
I could see in your eyes it's what you didn't want to read.
I know. And then they're like, we want more. And I was like, get out of here, assholes. You just called me a grandma. Like, I'm not reading you any more books. Like, I'm leaving here. So just the one and done. And I was out. I've done my service as a mom, and I'm never doing it again.
A friend of mine asked me for some... a friend of his is writing a screenplay that's a cringe comedy, and he's not really someone who reads screenplays. So he asked me for like some advice to give to her, and I should just like pitch her your way and have you tell her this story.
Yeah.
So you can have this story turn into a short film.
That if I have one superpower, my sister says this to me all the time, one superpower. If I'm ever having the worst day ever, like the worst thing can happen to me, she's like, I call you because there's been something so much worse that's happened to you. And you can always make me feel better with whatever horrifying story you have. So, again, I extend that to all of you if you are in need. But nevertheless, I also wanted to share with our listeners that this is a live show, and so we are being joined today with lots of our friends of Alternate Ending. And so at the second half of the show, get excited because we'll have a few folks jump on to share some of their own lists. So stick around for that. But before we get there, worst Christmas movies criteria. I'm going to send it to you, Brennan, first. What do you think makes the worst Christmas movie?
Okay, well, I most recently appeared on your worst movies of the 80s episode, and I have a similar criterion to that, which is that these movies are actually bad. They're not good bad. They're not fun to watch. People will still try to watch them afterward anyway, because that is a problem with our listenership in particular. But that is very much what I was doing. If I enjoyed this movie, it did not end up on the list. But to that end, I did create a little stocking stuffer for each of my choices, and I will recommend a similar movie that I do like.
Okay.
In short, I'm just going to throw out a title. But I kind of became the de facto kind of Christmas movie person here at Alternate Ending because they mostly end up on streaming these days, and Tim does not do streaming. This year, that has not been the case because there is shit out there. It's just like not even bad stuff. It's just almost nothing. And it just wasn't really worth it to me. But I do have a wide variety of experience with a huge variety of different types of bad Christmas movies. So I have 5 different categories, and I picked the worst one from each category for my list.
Wow. You've had a breadth then to pull from. I did not, but we'll get there. Tim, what was your criteria?
So much like Brennan, my list has to be made out of things that I find like genuinely terrible. Not like, tee-hee, it was so funny. Like, this movie hurts me. This movie feels bad to watch. Compounding that, it has to not just be a bad movie that is also a Christmas movie. It has to feel contrary to the spirit of Christmas in some capacity. Like, it is important to me that this be a movie that feels like, rather than getting me excited to celebrate the festivities, it makes me sort of hate the whole situation. It just fills my heart with Ebenezer Scrooge like coal. So those are the two things. A couple filters that I did put on this. One, I have no horror Christmas movies because that's just shooting fish in a barrel. Like, I feel like if you had the 5 worst Christmas movies that are slasher movies, you would already have this list. And I want a little bit more breadth than that. Plus, I did just have what is possibly my least favorite Christmas horror film on the worst of the 80s list. So it would be redundant to that. Don't Open Till Christmas. So it would be redundant with that. So no horror films, except insofar as the horror is how badly they were made. I also decided to stick exclusively with things that got some level of a theatrical release. So no streaming. Because again, feels a little easy. Not that I want to say that anyone else is being easy, but because I assume that's one of your categories, Brennan. But for me, I just wanted to like try and do things that actually felt like they had gone out in the world and tried to actually be like proper movie. And I did try to get caught up because these are a lot of movies that I've been avoiding for years. Like you hear about some of these films. It's like, I don't want to see that. And I don't. And so I had this backlog of like 14 or some crazy number of just horrible Christmas movies to watch. People on Letterboxd were like asking me to stop because it felt like I was damaging myself emotionally to keep watching them, which I appreciate. I did not finish the list, just so everyone is aware. The films that are not on my list because I didn't see them, so I don't know how bad they are. Mixed Nuts, the legendarily terrible ensemble comedy directed by Nora Ephron. Surviving Christmas, in which Ben Affleck and James Gandolfini hate each other. And Unaccompanied Minors, an early film by Paul Feig about children at an airport.
Right. That seems like you've seen a lot then, if you're only really listing the 2. So
those are the 3 that I wish I could have gotten to that I didn't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that was a grim journey to watch on Letterboxd. I'm glad you were free of that. And
I have a copy of Mixed Nuts on my computer. I don't know how free of it I am.
Oh God.
It's the 22nd. Yeah. I might cram it in before Christmas Day.
Yeah, no, that sounds like you. I mean, I would do that too. But yeah, the horror problem is the reason I invented my category system, because it is very easy to have a list of just 5 bad Christmas horror movies.
Typically, the 5 worst Christmas movies are also horror movies. Like that's like a fact. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, so you're limited to 1. I think we might have different lists because there are 0 Christmas movies that I've seen almost that I don't love. So I think the problem comes in with, I think I just rewatch. I think this time of year where it's so stressful and chaos and like no one knows where the tape or scissors are ever, like all I'm looking for is like a comfort blanket. And for me, I just end up going back to the classics. So when I looked at the ones that I've seen, I'm like, I love all of these movies, but I don't think I have seen as many as I think I thought I would have. Because I love them.
Especially because this was your pitch, so I assumed you had some in mind when you made the pitch.
It was harder than I thought. Again, I like that Tim Allen Santa Claus movie. Love it. Like, I just love that movie. It's so it's probably bad. I don't even know. But I love it.
Tim Allen Santa Claus movie is nowhere close to my list.
Oh, okay. Because
I hear the 3rd one is awful. I haven't seen either of the sequels,
and I didn't see that one.
I also hear very bad things about the current series.
Yes. I think it's not good, but my bar's low. I think so. I ended up having to go with the ones that get me least into the spirit of Christmas, and then I went from like and actually some of these I really just did not like also, but then some of them I'm like, this is not a movie that gets me into the spirit. And when people talk about how it gets them into the spirit of the holidays, I'm like, that is wrong. Like, it's just really wrong information. So here I'm here to present accurate information around what makes a bad Christmas movie. So I
feel like I know at least one movie is going to be on your list, and I'm just going to be sad. But we'll go.
I don't know which one because there's so many. But there's only 5. But I'm going to start with you, Brennan. Bring us your number 5.
Okay, well, my number 5 is among the category that is consistently pumping out some of the worst Christmas stuff. It is a Hallmark Christmas movie. See, here's the thing: Hallmark movies honestly mostly don't deserve to end up on a worst of list because they are deeply mediocre and generic, and that's the thing that they are trying to be. But the thing about them, I've seen more than my fair share of these, and every Hallmark movie is generic and vapid Christmas rom-com. But each of them tends to have at least one scene that is kind of a Lynchian nightmare, and it just comes out of nowhere and it doesn't make any sense, and it's really bizarre to experience. So the movie that I chose is the one that doesn't have that moment. It is just completely smooth and affectless and also does things that are punishing to my personal worldview. Um, it is the 2019 movie Sense, Sensibility, and Snowmen. It
Ah,
it is ostensibly an adaptation of Jane Austen's Sense and
Emma,
Sensibility.
right?
Yeah, exactly. It is one of a long tradition of Hallmark making Christmas versions of Jane Austen movies. It's also there's also Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe. There is Christmas at Pemberley. This one actually comes from the same director as the dog show themed Unleashing Mr. Darcy.
Fucking
Um,
with me right now.
I'm not. These are all real movies.
Never heard
Is
of
is
this.
Mr. Darcy a dog?
No, he's a
Oh,
vaguely hot man.
okay.
But they both own dogs, and it's ostensibly adorable.
Okay.
But in this one, we have
You
a.
really have seen every single Jane Austen adaptation, haven't you?
Oh, I have. I committed to this and made it happen.
All right.
But yes, this movie is about a young woman named Ella who is hired as a party planner by a CEO of a toy company. Ella is played by, oh, I don't, did I have her written down? I don't know. Erin Krakow, that's her name. I'm sure you know her from other Hallmark Christmas movies, including A Cookie Cutter Christmas, which is a better title for this movie. But the thank you, Sting. Yeah, he's Sting says my Xbox achievements are all 1981 slashers and all Jane Austen adaptations, and that's a pretty good summation of the thing that is me. But yeah, so here's the thing. Well, the CEO of the toy company that she's hired to plan a party for, he doesn't like get Christmas or whatever. He's played by Luke McFarlane, who he's the lead, the romantic lead in Bros.
Yep.
I mean, opposite Billy Eichner. I really like Luke McFarlane. I think he's very charming. He's certainly the best male actor that Hallmark has to give. But he's absolutely miscast in this movie. And then the thing that the movie does that just scrapes against my inner organs is that it doesn't, I don't think they've read Sense and Sensibility. I don't think they know what it is. Because the thing that adaptations of Sense and Sensibility do when they haven't read it is they at least read the synopsis, and they have two sisters go from riches to rags, and there's boys. That's the thing that you do. That's what Material Girls with Hilary Duff and her sister did. That's what From Prada to Nada did. Like that's what you do. But what they did with this one, it is two sisters. They forget about riches to rags. They kind of forget about one of the sisters halfway through. They swap the sisters' personalities, thus fundamentally breaking the way that the plot
So,
is
so this
structured.
is more sensibility and sense, is what you're saying.
Yes, it is. And it is primarily a story about a couple that doesn't get along at first and then slowly, gradually falls in love with each other, which is fucking Pride and Prejudice.
That's Pride and Prejudice.
That's the thing. It's just it's comatose. It's invigoratingly stupid in the way it's an adaptation of Jane Austen, and that's saying something. And it's just I hate it with every fiber of my being. It is a deeply unpleasant movie to sit through.
And you said this is Sense, Sensibility, and Snowmen?
That's correct.
And
From
this is number
2019.
5.
All
Like the
right,
rage
I'll
that you're
go run
feeling
right out
right
and
now.
not see it.
It's
Thank you. And my stocking stuffer, I do have an alternate title. If you do want to watch a Hallmark Christmas movie, I recommend A Christmas Melody. It was allegedly directed by Mariah Carey, who appears via green screen interacting with nobody. It stars Lacey Chabert, who is the best female actress that Hallmark likes to trot out. She's incredibly competent, which is more than you can say for a lot of these people. And also Kathy Najimy shows up. And Kathy
Oh, that's
Najimy,
not fair. She's good.
yeah. But she is the centerpiece of the Lynchian moment of that movie as well. So
Okay.
it's still not great, but it's a good time.
Okay.
Well, number 5 and coming out with rage. So I'm curious to see where it goes from there for Brennan. But Tim, I'm going to throw it to you for your number 5.
I feel like my number 5 might get rage kicked off on multiple directions. I'm curious.
Oh,
Maybe
no.
Maybe I misjudge some of the people on this podcast. So my number five is a film that I think is regarded as a modern Christmas classic by a lot of people who encountered it when they were children, and I feel sorry for those people. It is a repulsive nightmare horror show of zombified cartoon characters creaking around like barely animated mannequins. I find this movie so visually off-putting that I sort of don't actually know what happens in it. I know it involves like there's a Coco thing, like a big musical number. There's a train involved, and in fact, the name of that train is the name of the film. This is 2004's The Polar Express.
That's my number five. I
Is
hate
it
this
really?
movie so much.
I thought you might like this movie.
I hate it so much.
I'm so glad you hate this movie.
Oh, it's like they basically have like the best possible characters. You've got Tom Hanks in there, and then he shows up and
It's
like Doc
everyone.
McStuffins.
It's like everyone is Tom Hanks. It's
Yeah.
like there's nothing but Tom Hanks.
Everybody
in this
looks like
movie.
Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks doesn't even look like Tom Hanks. He looks like a weird Doc McStuffins character to me. He's like he looks ridiculous, and it's like kind of Tom Hanks's face, but not enough of Tom Hanks's
It's like
face.
a version of Tom Hanks's face that like someone took a photograph of his corpse and like 100 years later someone tried to do a life mask of Tom Hanks.
This is exactly true. This is the saddest I've ever felt ever watching a Christmas movie because I had read the book and I'm like, oh, this is going to be, I love the message. I'm like, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be lovely. And then I'm watching it with my nephews. I was like, everyone gather around to me. Like we will watch together. And it comes on and I was like, what is this? This is like, am I watching the right movie? Like I thought it was maybe like the wrong movie, like a remake.
Like it's the copyright memo before the movie starts.
Yeah.
And it's like made by like college animation students or something.
I didn't even care if the kid rang the bell. I'm like, just ring the bell. Don't ring the bell. I don't care. Like the kid that's
Right.
in there is awful. And I'm like, that was the most disappointing. Like
I'm so glad you hate this movie.
I'm so
I was
glad
so
you
worried
hate
about this
too.
one.
Oh,
I'm so glad you hate this movie, Carrie.
what a relief. What a relief.
Oh, I'm filled with the spirit of Christmas. Now I'm in a good mood. Now I don't want to go through the rest of my list.
I am too. Let's actually just stop here. I actually have completely forgotten about my trauma from earlier today. And
I feel God bless us, everyone, that we all agree.
yeah.
But yeah, there's
terrible.
just so much that's wrong with this. Like there's the aforementioned Coco musical number where you've got these children like doing cartwheels sort of, but it's mostly like their bodies are just like pivoting in midair and the cocoa seems to be made out of like tar.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, none of it feels warm or cozy or light or well-spirited. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like it could have turned into a horror movie, like Murder on the Orient Express or something like that.
I mean, are you sure it's not a horror movie?
I'm not.
Because the end point of the movie is the kids go to meet that Santa Claus and he's going to eat them.
Yeah.
Is what's going to happen.
It is.
To those kids.
With cocoa that looks terrible.
Yes,
So
they're going to boil them.
Merry
boil
Christmas.
them in his sludgy
Merry
cocoa
Christmas
and eat
to
their bones.
us. Merry Christmas to us, Tim. Well, that was my number
Indeed.
5. So we're already back to
What was
your
that?
number. I said that was my number 5, so we're already back to your number 4, Brennan.
Oh, great. And I just wanted to throw out vis-a-vis Polar Express. I can't have feelings about it because I did see it as a kid and don't remember it, except for I do remember even as a child finding one moment of cinematography viscerally repugnant to me. And it was like the camera is viewing a character through something that's beneath them. It's either a snow globe or like a page in a book or something. But I can get on board with hating the Polar Express. I'm on board this train.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. But yes, my number 4, as Tim had assumed it would be, it is a streaming one. My category is the Netflix Christmas movie because they have tried to step into the Hallmark space. And I think they accomplished their goal incredibly well because they've pumped out a bunch of kind of watery shit. But the wateriest and the shittiest, it is a Christmas rom-com sequel from 2021 titled A California Christmas: City Lights. This is a movie that I signed up to review for alternate ending and then backed out
I
of
remember
because
that. I remember that.
I couldn't bring myself to do it. The original California Christmas is pretty generic. It's about a businessman who's like going undercover at a ranch to something something land grab, whatever. But of course, the ranch is owned by a single mom. And she's got a precocious kid. And the thesis of that movie is the that the woman who wrote and produced the movie and starred in the movie, the thesis is that isn't my husband so hot? Because her husband is the romantic lead, and he is so hot. And so the thesis is correct. But the plot of A California Christmas City Lights is that the hot husband, his family business is his mom has like left. She hasn't died because it's too this movie's too safe to kill off a character. But she's like off in Aruba, and he has to take over the family business, and he has to take his ranch gal down to the city. And can she handle it? Because as we know, everyone who's from the country is an infant babbling, dribbling fool who couldn't possibly exist around 100 other people in their immediate kind of vicinity. This movie somehow forgets that the husband is hot. He's wearing a lot of coats, and not good coats. And it's considerably less horny than the first movie, and that's the only
Oh dear,
benefit.
that's not good.
It's the only
Oh,
benefit that the first movie had. And it's kind of just got an experimental film level of non-narrative. And it's just kind of characters milling around waiting for something to happen, and it never does. It is miserable.
okay.
I don't recommend it.
I will
Yeah.
say you've given me an interesting sort of philosophical question to ponder. You know, as I think everyone knows, I'm a fan of what I would call wife guy cinema. You know, I'm Paul W.S. Anderson and here's my
Mhm.
wife, and I will just covet her with my camera. Or I'm Rob Zombie and here's my wife Sherry, and she is God herself. I feel like the idea of there being like husband gal cinema, if that's a phrase, like
Mhm.
here's my super hot husband. That is a new phenomenon to me, and it shouldn't be. But I feel like as a proponent of wife guy cinema, I should investigate this a little bit more.
Yeah, no, Lauren Swickard is breaking boundaries. She's breaking the glass ceiling of cinematic horniness.
I like
And
that. I like that.
But you're
That's
recommending
important.
the first one then, Brennan? You're saying catch that one.
If you can handle a deeply 4 out of 10, generic rom-com, then
No,
yes.
I can't handle 4 out of 10 movies. What are you talking about, Brennan?
But the Netflix Christmas movies I would like to recommend are the Christmas Prince trilogy. The first one is pretty bland, but they get increasingly unhinged as they kind of build out the world of fake Europe that this takes place in. So it's very fun to consider the political reality of the Christmas Prince universe, in which the only major decisions about the royalty of this made up European nation that is uh, a on the continent, but clearly England. And all the decisions are only ever made on Christmas, it seems. It's very fun. I like those ones.
Is it possible this is some sort of like constitutional monarchy where the only actual power given to the royal family is one day a year, and that day is Christmas?
That's entirely possible. I think it's called Belgravia is where they live, and the Belgravian political system is one that is worth looking into.
Okay.
But yes, so number 4, I'll throw that to whoever's next, which I think is Tim, right?
It is me. And this is one of the beneficiaries of my huge deep dive into the worst of 21st century Christmas cinema. A film that I almost skipped because I was like, well, it seems lousy, but it doesn't seem like lousy in the way that some of these other films I've collected, like Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a big old pile of poo. And so I watched this film I watched this film because we missed our recording last week because you were under the weather, Carrie. So I'm so glad you were, because I would not have had this film on my list. And this film is evil. This is an evil film that presents such a dark, cruel vision of humanity, and not like a fun way, not like sort of we're being snarky and spiky and caustic. It's more just like it hates life. This movie does.
Okay.
It is the story of two men, one of whom is sort of his town's Christmas guy. He's a dentist played by Matthew Broderick. And his across the street new neighbor leasing the house is a a very gifted salesman who gets very easily bored. So he sort of hops from job to job, played by Danny DeVito. And Danny DeVito's character decides, my goal this Christmas is going to be to make a house so bright you can see it from space. And since he lives across the street from Matthew Broderick has issues with this, as one would. And the plot is basically, watch these two horribly toxic men just try to end each other's lives, essentially. And it's festive because it's Christmas and there's lights and there's music, and they're both sort of tormenting their wives in this very just unpleasant way. And Danny DeVito's wife is played by Kristen Chenoweth, and Kristen Davis is Matthew Broderick's wife. And so you just have this very like gloomy vision of humanity. At which point I will say the title of the film, because the characters played by Danny DeVito and Kristen Chenoweth, their family surname is Hall, Buddy Hall and Tia Hall. And the movie's title is Deck the Halls. Oh. So it's a pun because it's like, well, you're decorating your house, you're decking the halls, but also you're going to fucking punch Danny DeVito in his fucking face. You're going to deck the halls. And like, that's where the movie lives. It's just this kind of incipient sense of violence. And it starts right at the beginning with this, because the opening sequence is like this kind of Matthew Broderick is touring the town, meeting all the people. And there are all these like just punishingly unpleasant stereotypes of dumb people. And it feels like someone who really has loved a lot of Coen movies trying to get some of that, like, everyone's kind of a silly fool energy, but without the sparkling wit that makes it palatable. So you're just watching these like really hateful representations of stupid people like bumbling around this Christmas town. Just a dark movie. It made me feel like gross when I was done watching it.
I thought you wanted to feel a little gross, and then in turn you feel like you're in the Christmas spirit. So to make you more in the spirit.
It does not pivot. That. It does not round that corner the way that it needs to.
I saw this one when I was looking at some lists, and I was like, I missed this one. I'll add it to my watch list. And now you're making me question that choice. So.
No, I think you should have watched it before this episode, because I think you would potentially put it on. It does not rouse the spirit of Christmas in your bosom. It makes you feel like you want all humans to die, especially the humans who made this movie.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll pull it off. I've got other movies to see.
Also, this movie, in order to demonstrate how Danny DeVito is trying to torture Matthew Broderick, at one point he plays the song Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. And the song, therefore, is on the film soundtrack in its entirety for a scene where the point is, boy, wouldn't you have to be a real dick to play the entirety of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer?
And they do.
And it's just like, I'm sitting here for 3 minutes and the joke was funny for about a tenth of a second. And here we are.
Okay. So skip this one.
Yeah.
No, I never said that. I'm not Brendan. I'm saying you should watch the ones on my list.
But that's a tricky prospect of like, because there are ways to make annoying characters pleasant to watch, but annoying to other people on screen. But it takes a lot of finesse to actually pull that off.
And this movie does not have anything resembling that level of finesse. Also, the acting is like just across the board terrible. Matthew Broderick apparently was like weeping in his trailer between takes because he was so convinced he was ruining his career by being in this movie. And you can feel that in his performance.
And maybe he did. I don't know. We've seen him since.
It's been in since 2006.
I don't know. Well, Tim, I'll tell you, as you started to describe your movie, I was like, I think we're going to line up again. I thought our number 4s were going to line up. The way you started to say, you were like, 2 guys, whatever. Mine has 2 guys in it. And you were like, it's terrible and it's awful and it's a abomination. You said all those things. And I was like, yeah, that's mine too. This one I'm a little nervous about because I don't like it at all for so many reasons. And again, this is TMI, but I think this goes back to, again, more childhood issues that I have. There's this one character that's in this movie that when I was a kid, when I was in like 3rd and 4th grade, I kind of thought I looked like her. And so I started to get really self-conscious that people were going to call me her name. And so then I just like always avoided it. And I don't know if that's like, I need to unravel this with a professional probably. So I don't know if that's why I don't like this cast, because they show up in different types of movies all the time, not just Christmas movies, this special cast. But this cast of characters has a tendency to do renditions on old tales. And these are the Muppets.
You are a sick freak.
What?
You are an insane person.
I just am like, I wasn't sure if you were a Muppet man. Are you a Muppet man?
Are you about to name my favorite Christmas movie as your number 4th worst Christmas movie?
I don't know. Is your Christmas movie really bad?
Well, there are multiple Muppet movies that are set at Christmas. This is why I'm not sure where you're taking this quite yet.
I'm going to look away, but I would say my least favorite one is the Muppet Christmas Carol.
I'm so glad I'm not in the same state as you right now.
My watch is going off right now from your rage. I just don't
the
like
idea
it.
that there's the I will once you have a chance to talk, I will explicate a little more about my feelings about this movie. But the idea that it could be so poisonously bad that it ruins other Muppet things for you really hurts to hear.
So this is at the bottom of the funnel, or this is in the funnel. I just don't like Muppets at all. I really just don't like them.
Carrie?
Yeah.
I want you to look at our list of guests at our live episode. I want you to look Halv Arthur in the eye and tell him how much you hate the Muppets.
Oh, no. I don't hate them.
You are not here for the live show, which is most of you. One of our listeners, Halv Arthur, is currently, his avatar on Zoom is Bean the Bunny.
Oh, no.
I think specifically Bean the Bunny from the Muppet Christmas Carol, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no.
Caleb would also like to suggest that this is the worst opinion ever expressed on the alternate ending.
When I said hate was a strong word.
Nope. Commit to what you're saying.
I also need to know which character, because like the parsimonious thing is that you're afraid people will call you Miss Piggy, but now I'm like, is it Janice? Is that the one you're afraid people were going to compare you to?
I kind of look a little bit like Miss Piggy. Like if I moved my nose up like this.
Well, anyone looks like Miss Piggy if they move their nose up like that.
Yeah, but I've got the round face, I've got the same hair, and I had like really chubby cheeks as a kid, even more like rounded than I had now. So I was like so self-conscious. And probably, here's the thing. Probably at some point somebody did call it to me. I've put it in a vault of like trauma that I don't remember somebody calling me Miss Piggy, but I'm sure they did, because I think that's why I've always been averse to her, because then I took it out on her and I was like, well, I don't like your voice. It's kind of squeaky and weird. And then Kermie, I was like,
she's a pig. She's got a kind of an oinky voice. That's the joke.
It's kind of whiny. And then Kermie, it's like Kermie. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so needy. Everyone's so needy in the Muppets, you know?
I feel dizzy right now.
I didn't know you
I
loved
feel
them
all
so
of the
much.
spirit that I have from Polar Express has just been set on fire. That is the Yule log burning in my rage.
I really wish that I had known that it was a background on our Zoom if I was looking at it, because I would have thought about my word choice differently. But I mean, this movie's fine.
You were unclear on the possibility that a room of 10 people might have at least one fan of the Muppets in it.
I mean, they're puppets, people. And here's my other problem.
You're right. They are puppet people. They are people who happen to be puppets.
Puppet people. A slight other, again, it's a pro and a con, but it's like, get your own story. This story was already out there. You don't even have your own thing to do. You got to come out there, and I'm sure Charles Dickens would be horrified. He's going to be like, great, Kermit the Frog.
I feel like Charles Dickens would probably view this as one of the better adaptations of his most adapted novel.
Certainly one of the better Scrooges, with Michael Caine as Scrooge.
Michael Caine's such a good Scrooge. Michael Caine is a people. Do you like Michael Caine?
You mean Michael Caine? You mean like the old guy? Yeah, I like Michael Caine.
But do you like him in this?
Is he Gonzo? Who plays
He's Scrooge.
He's Scrooge.
Dave Gables plays Gonzo.
Oh, you're right. He's live action, isn't he? That's right. I do like him. Like him. Yeah. It's just everybody else. I just don't think I like puppets. I think I don't like puppets. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
All right. That's my number 4.
I'm normally all in for jumping in to defend Carrie's opinions and stuff. And first of all, I do think that, Carrie, you are a very subjective film watcher.
That's fair.
And a lot of the things that you experience in a film are metatextual. They exist entirely outside of the art object. And I think that's what you do, and that's fine.
Thank you, Brennan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a butt swinging around here is what I'm suspecting.
No, here's the weird thing, because I actually don't really like A Muppet Christmas Carol either. But it's for two reasons.
Bastards.
And those reasons are because I love the Muppets so much.
Okay.
Number one reason, is that A Muppet Christmas Carol doesn't prioritize the Muppets in any realistic way. It has a lot of invented Muppets that only exist in A Muppet Christmas Carol. And I don't care about any of them. I don't see why it would have been so difficult to say have um an established Muppet character playing the Ghost of Christmas Present or Past, or I think those two are original characters because I remember Statler and Waldorf played Marley.
The three ghosts are all new characters, and that was apparently actually a strategy that was intentional. But
yes, it was intentional, and it did not work for me.
fair.
And also I just don't think. I mean, this is not going to be shocking, but Brian Henson was not the best steward of the Muppet legacy, and this is the first movie to come out after Jim Henson's death.
Accurate.
And I think it already kind of became a little creaky and weird in a way that I don't appreciate.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm hearing 2 votes for the Muppet Christmas Carol. So
well, I enjoy that you're hearing those 2 votes because you will not hear a third for the rest of your time on this planet.
To be fair, your opinion shocks and appalls me, but I don't really like the movie.
So
okay,
saying
I will accept
somewhere
that.
in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Let's move on from this one because I'm feeling a little toasty. So we're gonna jump. I feel
like I'm red. I feel like as I look at my face in the window, I'm a little red at the moment.
You are.
And real quick, Christopher Brown's asking if Muppet Treasure Island is decent. I don't find it to be. What do you think, Tim?
It's certainly not this good.
I agree with that.
I haven't watched it in a while. My memory is that it's got good moments and an overall not very exciting Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Brennan, we're going to move on to your number 3.
Great. Okay, my number 3 is one that I think has an opportunity of being on Tim's list. It's not the one that for sure is going to be on Tim's list, but it is my mainstream kind of big box Hollywood Christmas movie. It is the 2000 Dr. Seuss adaptation, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
That is my number 2. That is my
number 2. Okay, great. So I'm going to give very brief thoughts on it, then throw it to you because I think you've seen it more recently and have more to say. But look, in general, this kind of era of Jim Carrey just mugging the hell out of any performance he's giving, I find viscerally repulsive. And then putting this kind of grotesque green makeup on him, and it just doesn't work for me. And I do think that the original song, Where Are You Christmas, as performed by Taylor Momsen, it is this shrill, treacly, it violates the Geneva Conventions. It's impossible to listen to and feel pleasure. It makes me feel like the heat death of the universe has happened, and it's just sucking every modicum of joy out of me to listen to. Yes, Tim.
I find that to be a generous read of that song, but okay.
Thank you.
No, so I don't know even where to start. Certainly, I think you're right that Carrie is a problem here. The makeup is a huge problem. Carrie does a better Grinch face when he's just like standing and does a Grinch face than the latex appliances shoved onto him in the creation of this movie. So there's that. It is an attempt to spend lots and lots of money making sets look like the illustrations in a Doctor Who book that primarily, I think, succeeds in revealing that there is fundamentally there's just nothing that you can do to make Seuss's illustrations 3-dimensional. Like that doesn't work. It's just not there. And I mean, other films have tried and they have failed miserably. I think if there's any good feature adaptations of Seuss, and I'm not actually even sure that there are, but they'd be animated. So it's this kind of misbegotten production design that is then shot horribly. Like it is just hideous. The lighting, everything is green and red because the idea was like, it's Christmas, da-da-da-da-da. And I think I made a mistake that Christopher has just called me out on. I did accidentally say Doctor Who, not Dr. Seuss. But anyway, so the lighting is like red and green all over, and everything looks like barf. The movie looks like it has been lit with barf. And then it's full of Dutch angles. So it's like seasickness barf. So like you're seeing the color and then it makes you feel like that yourself because everything is unsteady and uneven. And then on top of everything else, you have this hideous movie with this insanely unpleasant central performance. The thesis of the first hour is basically, do you like spending lots of money at Christmas? You don't? You're probably a commie, aren't you? And it's just like, it's this horribly anti-Christmas pay-on to buying shit. That then after an hour is like, okay, well, now we're going to become Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And that doesn't work because the plot of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas is that the Who's don't actually care at all. Like, they give presents because that's what you do, but who gives? They don't care. And like, that's emphatically not what the movie can conceivably be. Dan asks in comments, is there some sort of wife swap? There's a key party. There's a key party. So the Who's are all swingers, and that is their right. But also they are. And there's also a scene where Jim Carrey takes a dog and puts his butthole on someone's face. I think it's Jeffrey Tambor's face, so that's kind of satisfying in that sense. But that's not just, I don't want that joke in a movie, especially a movie that I'm watching at Christmas time with my family and my children. I hate this movie. I was so shocked that I saw something in the last 2 weeks that somehow managed to make me feel even more bile in my soul than this movie does. Because this has been my least favorite Christmas movie since the nanosecond I started watching it in the year 2000 in theaters, and only budged literally like 8 days ago. So
wow,
Grinch, love it.
I can't wait for your number one. But yeah, Carrie, what do you have you seen this movie? Do you like it?
I've only seen the animated one. I don't think I've
Keep
ever
it that
seen the Jim Carrey, and I love the animated one. So
animated one's masterpiece.
Oh, okay, good.
I assume you're talking about the short one from the 60s.
The one with like the cute little dog with that he turns into a reindeer.
I mean that happens in all versions of the story.
Oh,
oh wait, yeah. Is it the one where Benedict Cumberbatch plays the Grinch, or the short?
Is it 25 minutes long or 100 minutes long?
I'm sure it's 25 minutes long. He lives on a hill.
Okay, great.
And Cindy Hulu.
We were in danger.
Oh, okay. No, I love that story. I guess I'm not a big Jim Carrey fan either.
This is not going to be the movie that converts you.
No. Okay. Well, you're not selling me on it. Although, like, is all the adult content, is it meant to be like still a kids movie, but then it goes over the kids' heads that all this is happening?
If it's going over the kids' heads, it's because the kids have been like knocked unconscious with a mallet. There's no subtlety here.
All right.
Also, this is just this is a Ron Howard movie. Like the most anodyne, I'm going to make a turkey sandwich on white bread sort of film director in all of modern Hollywood somehow made this just insane, tasteless, glitter
thing.
Awful thing.
All right.
Well, I think it's that person looking at Dr. Seuss and going, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will throw out my mainstream big budget movie that I do want to recommend. Also features a supporting performance from Christine Baranski. It is a Bad Moms Christmas, which shouldn't exist. They shouldn't have made a sequel to Bad Moms. That movie was bad, just like the titular moms. But A Bad Moms Christmas is kind of great, and Christine Baranski is 10 out of 10 in it. She's very good.
I agree. And it actually showed up on a bad movie list. And I was like, what? I actually really, really liked that movie.
Yeah, it does benefit from that it shouldn't be as good as it is, but it's very delightful.
Yeah.
She is not the mom that wants to fuck her daughter, and I don't think that actually happens.
What?
No.
That's what Dan is saying. There is a mom that's very clingy with her daughter, but that might be what he's joking about.
Okay.
It's definitely.
I haven't seen Bad Moms, so
you wouldn't like it, Tim, at all. But again, I think it's enjoyable for anybody, but in particular, I feel like people always try to do this hyperbole on moms of what life is like as a mom in these movies. And the sad reality is it's not a hyperbole. Like, it is that stressful. It is like the husband laying around and the mom's like getting all the presents and wrapping. And so if for us to watch it, I think it's like I feel seen moment. So everyone always thinks it's like such an exaggeration, but it's really not. It's just reality. Mom reality. So
I mean, I regret to say that you don't like Muppet, so nothing that you feel stressed about at Christmas makes me feel sympathy for you.
Nothing helps anymore. Well, I'm gonna go watch. I'm gonna go watch that after this. But I'm gonna jump. Then am I at my number 3 already?
No, we're at my number 3.
Oh, you're at number 3. That's right, because you took.
Because even though I just took the lead on Brendan's number 3, but technically it was Brendan's number 3.
That's right. So you were to your number 3, Tim.
So I don't know, Brendan, if you've seen this. I think you may have seen this, and if you have seen this,
Okay.
this is on your list. So you know how there's this thing called the War on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that there's a second war on Christmas? The War on Christmas is the godless libs trying to take the Christ out of Christmas and like not letting us put mangers on City Hall and whatnot. But there's also a separate war on Christmas, which is all those boring, not fun at all fundies who are like, I think Christmas should only be about celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior. So what are we going to do about giving gifts and drinking cocoa and caroling and spending just oodles and oodles of money? We need to save Christmas.
Oh, here we go.
And that's why Kirk Cameron is saving Christmas. I was not prepared for what this movie is when I saw it for the first time. I thought it was like Kirk Cameron's going to go on like a tirade about liberals. And it turns out that Kirk Cameron's like, you don't understand. The reason we do give out presents is because God wants us to. The reasons we do all these horrible, tasteless, tacky, suburban, nonsensical things is because of my insane, tendentious, postmodern fever dream readings of biblical stories related to like, I can't even think of the details, but just the stuff that's coming out of this man's mouth trying to justify like a consumerist Christmas in a Christian framework. It's kind of beautifully wrongheaded. That being said, this is a dreadful movie starring a dreadful human being, making just horrible arguments that I find repulsive. And it's also really, really, really badly made.
Huh.
Like at the level of knowing where to put the camera down so that when the actors move, they're standing in the right place in front of it. Like that level of competence is missing from this film. Early on, the film opens with Kirk Cameron like giving a monologue to us about the need to celebrate Christmas. And it's clearly like he's addressing us like he's, Andy Williams at the start of his Christmas special or whatnot. And Kirk Cameron is looking off camera. So he's just kind of staring into a void talking to us. And it's like, you don't even set up a direct address right. That's like simple. And so you have just tasteless filmmaking. You have all this slow motion for some reason. And then built into that are these like, not built into it. It's like only it's one scene. It's where he's explaining why we should celebrate Santa Claus. And the reason we should celebrate Santa Claus is that basically Saint Nick punched heretics at the Council of Nicaea. Sure. But there's this like flashback to the historical, quasi-historical Saint Nicholas, who's like this grim Zack Snyder-esque barbarian warrior. And it's so dark and so unpleasant and violent. And it's just deranged. It's like watching someone just on a horrible like fentanyl high, just trying to like scream Christmas things at you. Dreadful film, more than worthy of its reputation. This I think has the reputation as being the worst Christmas film. I don't have it there, obviously. I have it third, but still very much unwatchable, I would say, and not fun in its unwatchability. It's just kind of like unpleasant and gross.
Yes, and that's why it's my number 2. So we did kind of swap.
We kind of swapped.
The category for me for this is evangelical Christian movies, which I also call nobody puts baby Jesus in the corner movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we didn't really address the plot as insofar as there is one. It's Kirk Cameron playing himself is visiting his sister's home. His brother-in-law is down about how Christmas is so about greed and presents. And so they remove to a car to sit in the dark, and Kirk Cameron delivers a pro-materialism polemic about how we can biblically support spending a bunch, basically living like the Who's and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You're right. It is this hectoring, boring, incompetent movie. Many shots will fade to black and then fade back in on the same shot. The dubstep Santa Bar Brawl does liven things up a little bit. I do think it is a little good bad in the final 20 minutes, which kind of just go ape shit. And he's like sliding on his stomach like a penguin past a bunch of
The
presents.
sliding on the stomach action finale where it suddenly becomes a Mission Impossible with Kirk Cameron is more fun than anything else in the movie.
Yeah, that's very fun. And there is a hip hop dance number. There's too many fridges in this woman's house. And there is his sister is played by herself. It's Bridget Cameron. It's not his sister who actually
Who actually
acts.
has a career. I do get the impression that even though they're all right-wing religious folk, Candace at least is vaguely embarrassed about the whole thing.
She is, but now she's doing that Great American Family thing, so I think
Mm,
she's leaning in on
okay.
on that. Um, but yeah, Bridget Cameron, the one move she has is to make a sour face and then rotate it so we can see it at every possible angle. It is a bad movie.
I
It is
can't
so
even
bad.
bring myself to watch it. Like I thought this might be on Tim's list because I'm like, oh, he's just such a glutton for punishment. But I don't think I could physically watch it just to see
It's
it. I
not
don't think I
very
could
long.
do it. I know, but I
If
just
that
don't.
makes you feel any better, it's only like 75 minutes
I
long.
feel like I would just be angry and annoyed because there's a faction of people that are probably really excited about it. Watch it every year.
It's
to get,
hard for me to
yeah.
imagine who besides like the Cameron family believes in
Yeah.
this film's message.
I don't know.
I
They're out
have to
there.
agree.
I think they're out there. Did he direct this too, or is he just starring? in
No,
it?
the director is someone named oh god, I had it in front of me, then I deleted it. It's like Dwayne something. It's like two
Yeah.
D's.
And if I recall,
Darren Dwayne
Darren Doan.
to the
Okay.
Don't.
That's
Sting
what I would think.
had this at our fingertips, so
And if I recall correctly, Darren Doan plays the brother-in-law who gets explained upon.
that sounds actually correct. Yes, but
Um,
it's great because it's basically like the mirror, like the dark universe version of Charlie Brown Christmas.
oh my God, yes.
Yikes.
Oh, so
Yikes.
God, it's just deeply, deeply incompetent. But yes, my alternative pick for this for an evangelical Christian movie. It is called Wish for Christmas, and it's about a young teenager girl who wants to go to the town's annual Christmas Eve dance because she likes boys and teenage things, but her parents want her to go to church. And she's like, wow, I wish I could go to the dance. I wish my parents weren't Christian. And so
Oh.
God grants her wish, and she wakes up, and her parents are atheists, and they say
Oh,
things
I was
like,
hoping it was going to be like they were Catholic or something.
no, they're atheists. They say things like "Happy Holidays,"
Oh.
and they care slightly more about money than they did before. And she obviously learns her lesson to appreciate God and Christianity and all of that stuff. And it is a very bad good movie. Good bad, whatever.
Is
Um, yeah.
how much does it play like It's a Wonderful Life?
Um, I mean, it's a spin on that format, but obviously differently.
Okay.
I don't think it plays like it at all. It's obviously inspired by it to a certain degree, but it's just like a wacky comedy about the things that Christianity or that evangelical Christians imagine atheists do and say to
Sure.
one another, and it is gloriously bizarre.
Okay.
All right. Well, I will still not watch it. And I'm going to, just because I don't need, again, that extra negativity in my life, much like the Muppet Christmas Carol. But
We're not talking about that. It's
We're
not
not
funny.
going back,
It,
not
it
going
will,
back.
we'll look back on it
it'll
and laugh
never
at
be
it. It's
funny.
not there.
Sometime. Not this year. Not this year. But my number 3 is one I saw with you guys, or some of you at least. And it was a movie that I could never have anticipated, and it was very bad. And there's nothing about it that got me into the Christmas spirit. I did enjoy chatting my way through the movie with many of you, but beyond that, if I had watched this alone, number 1, I probably would have turned it off. But number 2, it would have just made me very sad and ungrateful for the holiday. So this is Jack Frost from 1997, which we all watched together for a watch party for a bad movie night. And I don't really still fully understand what happened. It's like a murderer sort of ends up taking on the life of a snowman and goes around and starts killing people, and gets revenge on the man who sent him, I think, to jail. I think.
It's not clear to me why you act like you don't know what's going on. This is the most lucid plot synopsis you've ever given on this podcast.
Oh, I just nailed it. Right. That was it, actually. And it was so bad. It was so unpleasant and so bad and silly and weird, but I don't think it meant to be silly and weird. I think it really just was, I think it was trying. But I don't know, there's sequels to this movie too, which is bonkers to me. I don't know. I did not enjoy this. Again, aside from chatting my way through it. But
no,
I think the silliness is
terrible.
intentional.
Oh, the silliness is definitely intentional, but I don't think it lands.
No.
It's trying to be a funny slasher movie that is not funny enough to succeed at that. This one probably would have made my list if I were doing like the 5 worst Christmas horror movies. It's quite bad.
It's quite bad.
That being said, I agree with Caleb in the chat. This is not even the worst Christmas movie from the 1990s titled Jack Frost.
Oh, I know. There's what? Is there one with Michael Keaton?
There's one with Michael Keaton.
So,
and I thought long and hard, is that a Christmas movie or not? I fell on the side of, even though a pivotal scene where Michael Keaton dies in a car accident does take place on Christmas Eve, it's a winter movie, but I don't know if I can call it a Christmas movie. So it did not make my list, but I thought long and hard about it.
This one definitely did, but I was reading the synopsis of the Michael Keaton
the slasher
one.
Jack Frost is a straight up Christmas movie.
Straight up, for sure. But the Michael Keaton one I read and I was like, gosh, man, I really don't remember this at all. I don't remember this happening. Like, this sounds like a different movie that I saw. And I'm like, there's more than one Jack Frost movie from the 90s.
I reviewed them in the same blog post as you think this horror movie is bad? What's even scarier is this Michael Keaton family movie. So
much worse. So yeah, avoid Jack Frost from 97 and apparently the Michael Keaton version of it as well, because both are pretty bad.
The 97 Jack Frost, I would say, would not end up anywhere close to my bottom 5 horror Christmas movies even. It's not very good, and the sexual assault scene with Shannon Elizabeth is really nasty.
So bad. So bad.
Not great.
I forget. Does he take out his carrot nose? Is that what happens?
Yep, that's
what happens.
Yep.
What happens?
Sorry, I don't even know why I said it out loud.
Thanks for talking about it so much, Carrie. Let's keep talking about it.
That's okay. It's part of the movie. It's on the list. It's why it's bad.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who has a taste for micro-budget cinema, Jack Frost 2: Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman is kind of fun.
I both respect and despise its subtitle. Like I like that they like the same thing as I like, but I'm angry that they thought they had the right to it. It's a Calvin Hobbes reference.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Hopefully it's intentional. It's got to be. Never mind.
It's got to be. It's way too specific of a phrase not to be intentional.
Yeah. No, you're right. But it's kind of like the Jaws: The Revenge of the Jack Frost franchise.
Okay.
The family goes to the Caribbean. The snowman gets mixed with some antifreeze, so he's able to follow them. And there are also little like snowball gremlin kind of characters. It is whacked out.
Yeah, actually, you're kind of selling me a little bit.
Yeah, they don't have the budget to pull it off, but the energy is there, and I remember liking it. I was in college, so I don't know if I'm still correct about this opinion, but it was better than the first one for me, even though it is substantially less well mounted in terms of budget, which is saying something.
All right. Did we all round out our number 3s?
We some of us rounded out our number 2s, but that was an accident of math.
Man, a lot of overlap. Well, then why don't we go and we'll head to a break. But before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. You can join Patreon and get early access to exclusive content, make us watch a movie, and more from our site. We always appreciate that. Celebrating their anniversaries with us, Dan Maher, Donald Cooper, Michael Matula, Chris Carollo, Zev Burrows, who's also here with us today, David Goose, and Morgan Emery. Thank you guys all so much for your support.
Thanks, everyone.
And again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I say them both. I don't know if you're supposed to, but I will here. Thank you for your support. And Tim, I got something in your Christmas bag. Your Christmas goodies today. And it was explicitly requested that I view this question with you, so you actually have a moment to think about it. And I did.
And I did look at the question. It would have. I'm glad I didn't get it blind. Although I will also say, like I needed 5 or 6 days to answer it correctly. But I'll give my best shot, and we'll go through it.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to go to the question. So, dear Tim, This could be a challenging question. Hopefully, Carrie has read it to you in advance of the show, possibly days before you record. So the question is, in the hypothetical event that you can program a 24-hour marathon of animated features and shorts, similar to, for example, B-Fest, what's your lineup look like? Sincerely, Travis Neely.
So that is a fun idea. I love this. There's two ways to go about this. Is it a 24-hour thing that we're always gonna have different 24-hour marathons of cartoons, or is it gonna be like this is the 24-hour like binge, like this is your crash course in animated cinema, which those have two very different answers. So I was kind of pondering like what would I want to have in a 24-hour marathon to fully express the breadth of what's going on here. And I have not by any stretch of the imagination decided to track this to 24 hours, which is part of where I'll be getting to is my asterisk on this and my parenthesis. There's going to have to be some Eastern European stop motion animation. You're going to have some Czech in there. Maybe The Hand by Georgi Trinka. Maybe Jan Schwackmeyer, probably Dimensions of Dialogue. You're going to need to have some other Soviet era Eastern European filmmaking. The Fly from Hungary would be on the list. Any number of films from Yugoslavia. I think sort of the obvious one would be Surrogat, also called Ersatz, but there's probably 4 or 5 other ones that might be candidates there. And I would maybe think of throwing on a stop motion feature from Czechoslovakia called The Pied Piper. It's called The Pied Piper in English. It's called something else in Czech. But so that's going to be one leg of this thing. Obviously, you need to have some classic Hollywood in there. So there's going to be a Disney. I'm not sure which Disney. Maybe Dumbo, maybe Bambi. Probably not one of the bigger ones. Probably not Snow White or Pinocchio or Fantasia. Those are too obvious. A couple of the shorts that go into those, some silly symphonies. A Mickey, a black and white Mickey, because the black and white Mickeys are better than the color Mickeys. No one says this, but it's true. And then some non-Disney animation from Hollywood. You're going to need a couple Warners in there. You're going to need at least one Chuck Jones, at least one Bob Clampett, at least one Tex Avery from both Warners and MGM. You're going to need to have a sampling of all the other studios, so some MGM, some Hanna-Barbera from MGM in there probably. Going to need to have a Van Buren, a studio that I really didn't know anything about until earlier this year and have kind of fallen in love with. The original cartoon series called Tom and Jerry that is not about a cat and a mouse. It was just about 2 dudes named Tom and Jerry. And I particularly treasure this cartoon called The Magic Mummy. So that's probably what would go on my list. So that's going to kind of cover our Hollywood. Obviously, you need some anime in there. You need both a kids anime and an adult anime. The adult anime, probably Belladonna of Sadness. Maybe the pornographic version of Cleopatra. Could go either way on that one. Kids anime. I would probably do both parts of Panda Co-Panda by Isao Takahata, who would go on to found Studio Ghibli, and of course we would need a Miyazaki, and which Miyazaki is a huge question. Maybe Ponyo. Maybe not actually one of the more obvious ones. Ponyo might be the one I would go with.
The little fish one. I remember
yeah,
Ponyo.
Little Fish
That's
Girl.
like the one that I liked. That's a good one.
And possibly also a little bit more. There's some very, very cool Japanese animation from the current century, so I might get some Mind Game in there, might get Your Name or Weathering with You by Makoto Shinkai, and maybe one other just kind of randomly selected Japanese feature, or even perhaps a couple episodes of Japanese television, of which there's just God knows how many hours of animation produced for Japanese television. So that's the kind of off the cuff what I've been brewing over since you asked me this question, but it's a good question. It's a complicated question, and that is why I hope, Travis, that you are one of my followers on Letterboxd. I think you are. If you're not, obviously that's free to join, free to follow me, or even we'll just put a link in the show notes. I will, before the new year, this is my Christmas present to you and to everyone else, I will put Tim Brayton's 24-hour animation marathon list on Letterboxd sometime in the next week. So that is my continuing answer to this question, which will be a sort of multimedia off of this podcast on another website altogether list.
All right.
Love it.
Yeah, that was a lot of information.
It's 24 hours of movies, most of which are like 7 minutes long. There's going to be a lot of them.
That felt like at least a week's worth of movies. I've learned 2 things. One is I'm not coming to your festival. And then number 2 is that was the amount of time that I gave you to think about it was enough. I think if I had given you 5 to 7 days.
It might have gone faster because I might have just had a list like boo, 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 and then we got through it.
I don't know. I don't know what would happen. We will never know, really. But that is a lot of movies to digest there. But thank you. Thank you for your very, very thorough response. So thank you all as well for that. Make your purchases through Amazon. It really, really goes to support our show through ae.com. And when we get back, we will be first joined by some of our listeners to share their worst Christmas movies. And then we'll move to our 1 and 2 worst Christmas movies of all time. And welcome back now to our favorite part of the show, because it's going to be probably a little weird and something we haven't done before. But
yeah, anytime we do something for the first time, it always goes very well. It does not end up turning our shows like 6 hours long.
No, never. But this is for us too, and this is fun for us.
It's Christmas. This was kind of my fault because I was the one who said to Carrie, like, it's going to be a Christmas. We should do like a Christmassy, like a thing, and this is the thing we ended up doing.
We ended up doing because it's fun for us, and it's a gift for me because what you don't know is I always wanted to be Roz. From Frasier or
that's why you said it was like Frasier.
Yeah. What did you think I meant?
I thought you meant like the one where like they blow up a restaurant or something. I don't know.
I wasn't sure what you were talking about, but I just went with it because when I don't know what you're talking about, I just agree because I assume I'm missing
There's
something.
an episode where Frasier and Niles try to start a restaurant and they set it on fire the first day it's open.
I just meant when Frasier's on the air and then he's like, hello, or whatever his accent is. And I was thinking maybe one of you guys could be Frasier, I could be Roz. Or, I don't know.
Gee, which one of us would be the pretentious blowhard with refined tastes? Who do you think?
I'm not naming names. I'm not going to call anybody out. But I just want to be Ross. Really, that's all that it comes down to.
Okay.
I also used to really like that show, Delilah. It was on the radio where people would call in at 7 p.m. And she had this really, I think she was like 90 years old, but she used to give out love advice. And so people would call into the radio and they're like, I'm really struggling. And Delilah would just give you all of these tips and tricks. I am open to that as well. So here today, my dream is coming true. We have.
I need to let you know. It actually appears that Caleb knows what the hell you're talking about, and I'm very impressed.
I love
That's
this,
lovely.
Caleb. I love this. And he knows. She's got this like raspy, deep voice.
Okay, good. I was going to ask if she sounded like she'd smoked a pack a day for 70 years, because that's the only person I want sex advice from.
Yes. And you're like, I don't
You
want to
gotta
know.
find the G spot.
She never said that. And I will not say that today. But today, for our callers who are coming in, you can share your worst Christmas movies list or love advice or both. Both are given freely, but until we'll find out when they join us. So our first caller we have on the line is Christopher Brown from DC. Chris, you're on the line.
All right. Well, as I suspected, there's some commonalities between our worst Christmas films list so far. Saving Christmas, of course, is one of the greats, as it were. I watched that for the first time on a long Amtrak ride down from Burlington, Vermont, back to DC, and I was watching it with a friend from college, and I didn't know her very well. Like we'd just like times, and yeah. But at the end of the movie, she said she was glad that she watched it with me. So we'll take it.
This sounds like a lifelong friend you've just made here. That is.
I need to hit her up for sure. Because that's
Yeah, and it's not even long enough to be worth killing time on a train. Like you look at the clock and you're like, oh, it's been an hour. That just sounds awful. So yeah, but it sounds like a lovely friend bonding moment.
Yes. No, the thing is, I had like a bunch of films on Amazon downloaded to my iPad at the time.
Okay, sure.
And I thought, that was short enough, and it was sort of, alluring enough. for me to pick that one to kill time with. And so, yeah, off we went. And I was treated to that wonderful dubstep Angels We Have Heard on High remix at the end, which I, as a joke, started playing for my brother while we were doing dishes in the kitchen the other day, and I'd forgotten that it was almost 5 minutes long. Yes, let's see. Number 4. I don't think these are actually like the worst Christmas movies ever, just ones I happen to not like. Sure. And that's why I am picking Die Hard 2, which I know, remember, Tim is also not a fan of.
No, it is somehow the worst Die Hard. And that's not a non-competitive race, I don't think.
Well, you like it less than the 5th movie?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to rewatch them both, and I don't really want to rewatch either of them. No. It's really lousy, though.
Yes, no. I just love how realistic it is that a film set at Dulles Airport would have the scenario it did. Because if only there were other airports in the DC area nearby where you could theoretically turn on emergency lights for. Mm-hmm. When the concept of your film collapses at the first sentence of the plot, you have problems. And as a director, Rennie Harlin does nothing to minimize those problems. So
the Rennie Harlin story does nothing to minimize the problems.
No, I have not actually seen the Nightmares 4 through 6 yet.
Okay. Yeah, in chat, we're sort of debating now what is the worst Rennie Harlin film, and that is a complicated conversation.
I saw, my brother and I, we watched The Legend of Hercules not long after Die Hard.
Oh, that's right.
And I blame your review for making us watch, as you convinced me to watch many terrible movies.
This is what Brennan was saying. This is the problem with our listenership and bad lists.
And I will step in. I like his Nightmare 4. It's not good as a nightmare movie necessarily, but it's a pretty decent story of self-actualization through 1980s slasher horror. I like that.
Okay.
I'm just very amused because you mentioned Doctor Who earlier, and that has been very much on my mind with the Nishudi Gatwa era coming up, and so I thought to throw on my Tom Baker scarf here. But I'm just very amused that maybe this is controversial, but I really like the Peter Capaldi era of Doctor Who, and it very much amuses me that Rachel Talalay, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, the director of Nightmare 6, became the star director of that era, and then they brought her back for the Star Beast adaptation in the recent run of specials, and I just think that's hilarious somehow.
Yeah. I will certainly say that I am not someone for whom there's any controversy attached to Peter Capaldi. I think he's my favorite of the current wave of Doctor Who.
Oh, that's wonderful. Sure, Matt Smith sort of stole my heart when I was first. I'm weird because I actually got into the classic series of Doctor Who first, but while the new series was on air. But then Matt Smith brought me on board. That said, speaking as a classic series loyalist even, I think the Peter Capaldi era is the single greatest quality stretch of the show to date. So yeah. It's good and stuff. If this is Christmas related, it's because they've done annual Christmas specials, which are counted as films on Letterboxd. So that digression is in fact relevant. Number 3. Gosh, Santa beats the ice cream, but I almost said Santa versus the ice cream bunny is very bad, and yet, as I believe I said on Letterboxd when I watched it at the time, I am kind of glad that the bookends are there, because watching whichever featured film is in the middle, I think there were 2 different edits of it, but
Jack and the Beanstalk and Thumbelina.
Yeah, I watched the one that had Riff Tracks did the one with Thumbelina, and I can't imagine watching it without the additional nightmare fuel of Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny.
I'm really mad that you are talking about this movie now. It completely slipped my mind that it's actually set at Christmas. I was like, yeah, that's that weird movie when Santa's in April, and then I just realized right now it's literally we need to get him back in the sky so he can deliver presents, and I can't believe I forgot to put it on my list. List is invalid.
No, it's so funny because that year that was the year that I decided to watch 300 films, which I'd never done before. And then my brother and some of my friends decided to egg me on to make it a full 365, the bastards. Especially because there were many days when I didn't watch a movie. And so I ended up like chunking a bunch of them together at the end. Like on the last day, I watched, like on the 31st, I watched Godard's Goodbye to Language, an obscure Seijin Suzuki film, and Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai, all on one day, like with 14 minutes to spare. But I've been somewhat agonized since then because I counted The Thumbelina and Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny as two separate films and did the same thing when I watched MST3K, the movie. And then I went back, watched the scenes that were deleted from This Island Earth for the movie, and then counted that as a separate log. And so, but you know what? I did it. I deserve that credit. 300.
It's a lot of
movies.
It's a lot to films do. On a technicality.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It's a lot to do that.
That's impressive.
It's never doing that again. But I'm glad I did it.
Oh.
I'm forgetting what my second worst.
It's like was there like a Muppet in there? Maybe like a Miss Piggy movie with like Kermit the Frog.
Well, I would say, like I said in the comments, I have not actually seen the Muppet Christmas Carol. So maybe it is as bad as it is. I didn't grow up with the Muppets. Like, I mean, I did like watch Sesame Street when I was a kid, but I have since come to appreciate them very much as an adult. So I cannot say I agree with your withering assessment of them. But I will say they are strange in ways that maybe they don't get credit for.
That's true.
I went to the Museum of the Moving Image recently, and they're doing a Jim Henson exhibit that spotlighted like all the weird experimental viewing, and sort of like because that in like a family friend dinner, people basically didn't know avant-garde artist, and they're going to assume that he maybe worked on an unreleased Christmas movie that sucked, and I'll have that as my number 2 because I've got to move on to my number 1 now.
I'm excited.
And I doubt that nothing Jim Henson did would have sucked entirely, so that's just a lie and a fabrication. Right. And I remembered what it is. Number 2 is The Perfect Christmas Present, which is a Hallmark movie.
Makes sense.
And
have you seen that one, Brennan?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I watched that with my brother at my aunt's house one time, and I don't think we caught the beginning, but the plot was basically this guy is hired to like investigate this woman for this on behalf of like her boyfriend for either I don't forget if it's remembering if like I don't remember if it's because he's testing her loyalty or just trying to like get to know her better. But anyway, it turns out, of course, that he and the girlfriend are a better match for one another. And so then, of course, she finds about the like grotesquely unethical lie that's being perpetrated, and she's like, "Oh, I can never trust you." But then she ends up breaking up with her boyfriend, who then goes to the investigator and is like, "You two really belong together." And this is also when I realized that Hallmark movies are at least 1/3 stock footage from all the endless insert shots of like Christmas ornaments and everything, which are of course very pretty. But
you're selling me on your number 2 there. That's for sure.
Honestly, like it's the only Christmas Hallmark movie that I've seen a significant chunk of, which is why I got on here by default. But you know what? For what it is, like it's a pretty good time.
Oh, all right. And I'm kind of nervous a little bit, but what is your number 1 then, Christopher?
I decided that the Star Wars Holiday Special did indeed count.
Sure. I DQ'd it as being TV, but it was definitely one that crossed my mind.
Well, I disqualified it because it's about Life Day.
Yeah.
That is a niggling point, I think.
Regardless, it remains to this day the second worst film I have ever seen.
It's really close to second worst for me. I don't know exactly where I'd have it, but it's way up on that list.
Yeah, it is repulsive.
I know Manos, The Hands of Fate, is your first worst from like I remember maybe your holiday special review, but I find Monos 2 like weird to be truly, truly terrible.
Sure.
By the way, Carrie, if you don't know a lot of these titles we're bringing up, spare yourself. Please.
I am.
Carrie,
I
watch the
always-
Star Wars holiday special tonight.
You
No.
guys always talk. That's come up before.
Think of which of the two of us is your actual podcast co-host and which one you therefore need to make happier.
I know the answer to that question, but I won't say it here. I don't want to hurt any feelings. But yes, I will add. Is that like a so bad it's good though? Should I? Is that
No.
It sounds like it's going to be, and then it just isn't.
it isn't? Okay.
It's got
I
the whole B.
have-
Arthur thing. B. Arthur's
I
good.
have a
I like B.
story to
Arthur in
tell
that.
you.
Yeah.
So my brother is in fact in the room. That's why I've been mentioning him, and he's been keeping an eye on me because hello, this is my brother Matthew.
Hello.
Hello. He sat on me. How old were we at the time?
Okay, wow, you're really just jumping
Yeah,
in there,
we're
aren't you? Okay, so our longtime live-in babysitter and creative mentor, who introduced me to many strange things and basically ruined my life in the best way possible because of it. She had a bootlegged copy of the Star Wars Holiday Special on DVD, and I was in 6th grade at the time, and my brother was in 3rd grade. And one afternoon, Cindy was her name, and she showed the Holiday Special to me. And I was so scarred by it that later I watched it again on the same day, showing it to my brother, to the point that my poor brother tried to run away, and my old, shithead 6-year-old brain went, well, it would be funny. What if I sat on my brother and so that he couldn't escape and he had to watch the entire thing?
No, this is how trauma reproduces itself. Like as an adult, I don't even know how to process the like wet dream scene with the grandpa and the Wookiee.
It's
like as
a
like
lot.
a 3rd grader.
What is
With my
happening?
much larger brother like sitting on my rib cage.
Oh my
I
goodness.
got like rug burn from trying to like squirm out of his like grip. It was I will never forgive him for that. So yeah.
So no, that he just brings it. He's a manipulative one. This one, he just brings it up whenever he wants to guilt trip me about something.
When he
He's
needs
done
something.
plenty of.
I think you've earned that demerit.
To be fair.
And Carrie, to your aghast expression, yes, you heard that phrase correctly, and
You heard that phrase
it
correctly.
is in no capacity and exaggeration of the content.
It wasn't the direction I expected. It wasn't the direction I expected it to go. No.
Art Carney gives a Wookiee grandpa porn, and we
Oh.
watch the Wookiee watching the porn. And
Yeah,
that
raised to
that
Diana
happens.
Ross. Who,
It
Diana
was
Ross?
Diane Carroll. Diane Carroll.
Dan Carroll, sorry.
That was
like,
my
Diana
first
Ross.
encounter with Diane Carroll, and now I'm watching her. She's a recurring character in White Collar, and I'm watching that with Ben. And I can't not think about that scene, and it's been very upsetting for me.
Sure, it would be.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Well, those are some picks. Those are some picks there. And now I think you steered me clear of wanting to add that last one to the watch list. But Christopher, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so
and
much.
for your brother jumping
Yeah.
on too. It's so
Thank you
nice
for
to
having
see you.
me.
Yeah.
I'd love to shoot the shit with you guys some other time. So
Anytime. We'll do this
Yeah, live
again.
show.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this again. So thanks so much for joining us.
Some happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy Life Day.
No.
Well, you know what? The phone is ringing again. I'm going to insert a sound
Are we
here.
going to do a little sound effect? Do you want me to do it? Do you want me to do some Foley?
It has to be like the kind of phone though that's like a landline. It has to be like
Bring,
bring
bring,
bring bring.
bring, bring.
Oh, hang on. It looks like we've got another caller. This caller's from New York City. And this is Zev Burrows on the line. Zev, you're on.
Hi, dude. What's up?
Hi.
That was my impression of Julie Delpy's American accent in Before Sunrise.
Oh, that was so good.
I love that.
It was really, really good.
I love it.
Thank you all for having me. It's good to be back. So let's see. Worst Christmas movies. I think my 4 through 1 have already been mentioned. Polar Express, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I put this in the chat. How the Grinch Stole Christmas I made the big mistake of seeing that in the theaters when I was 6 years old instead of The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh yeah,
And I
big mistake, huge.
I regret every life decision I made at that age. So
Sure.
because Emperor's New Groove is a masterpiece, and then Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, Saving Christmas, which are both thoroughly repulsive. Before I do my number 5, I do want to give a shout out to the best Christmas movie of all time, The Muppets Christmas Carol. So, I also want to give a shout out to the 1947 Miracle on 34th Street, the 94 Little Women, and probably a couple of others that I'm missing right now. But my number 5 worst Christmas movie of all time I should technically put its sequel, because I think its sequel is probably the laziest big budget Hollywood production of all time, but I don't think I've actually seen it all the way through. So instead I'm going with its precursor. This is from 1990. It is directed by Chris Columbus, and it's called Home Alone.
Barry?
The movie?
Are you doing okay?
I mean, I don't know. No, but I mean Home Alone, which one?
I mean the one starring the darling Macaulay Culkin and the worst Joe Pesci performance I think I've ever seen.
Only Joe Pesci.
The only thing I really like about that movie is the John Williams score.
Great score.
Great score. There's a couple of cues that I listen to a lot. Yeah, I mean, and I've seen it one time, and I saw it. I maybe if I was younger and I'd seen it when I was younger, I would have liked it more. But I saw it when I was 18, and I was just like,
yeah, no, you were too old.
No,
yeah,
no. What is this? So
that's the problem. You were too old. And
is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, Carrie, I was 26 when I saw the Muppet Christmas Carol for the first time. So, and I adore the hell out of it. So
that's because Muppet Christmas Carol is a great film made with artistry, whereas Home Alone is a real stupid, violent comedy by Chris Columbus, who made 0 good movies in his career.
Oh my!
No. He's made one good movie.
Adventures in Babysitting is fine. It's a fine.
It's a fun movie. I like that movie. Also, I was just in Chicago, so
okay.
So I just
I will say, as I was doing my horrible Christmas movie binge, 1492 Productions, which is Chris Columbus's production company, kept cropping up, and I was like, Chris Columbus just like making bad Christmas movies is like his thing, apparently. Like he's just some sort of weird Grinch filmmaker who just touches Christmas and turns it into something horrible and shrill.
And there are also Christmas scenes, if I recall, in his Harry Potter movies and Rent.
I forgot that he made Rent. He made Rent.
Sure did.
That's so weird. Because I don't have it as the 5th worst Christmas movie of all time, nor spoiler alert, the first. But I do think Home Alone's pretty bad. So I'm glad to hear it's on your list. I'm
pretty sure. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. I think you're the only 2 people that feel this way.
I mean, my friend Nick Davis on Letterboxd, professor at Northwestern, so that's your appeal to authority for the night. He gave it 1 star, which is fewer stars than I give it. So
I gave it 2, and maybe I haven't seen enough bad Christmas movies, or maybe enough bad Christmas slasher movies.
This is the only movie that I care about.
One movie about Carrie, and it was number 4. So how about that?
I gave it a higher rating than both Santa Claus Conquers the Martians and Jack Frost, but I could not put those movies because they are to me good bad movies.
Good.
Sure. I adore the hell out of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Gosh darn it.
But this is the effect I was hoping to get out of Carrie when I had Polar Express as my first one out the gate. So thank you for actually getting us there.
Getting my rage. I'm having to go watch it right now. Like the older you get, the more you're like, I would say until I was about 35, it was really easy to get into the holiday spirit. Now I'm kind of like, I got to push myself because it feels like the world's crumbling around me. If I right now were to go watch Home Alone, I would just...
What says Christmas like a man having nails shoved through the balls of his feet?
Exactly. Or your hair burned off and little feathers stuck on it, or you getting a paint can to the face. I mean, everything about that to me says holidays.
My favorite thing in the movie, what was that Santa Claus movie last year with David Harbour? Santa
Oh, it was
Claus.
so
Violent
good.
Night.
Violent Night. There's a sequence where the little girl like gets inspired by Home Alone to set up these fun slapstick traps.
Yeah.
And the movie's it's a R-rated slasher movie, so the cute slapsticky traps, all of which are based on Home Alone traps, like just destroy the bodies of the people trying to sneak into the attic. We see like very visceral detail what would have actually happened, and I felt that was I like that.
I did too.
That is an excellent sequence and much better than the similar sequence in Better Watch Out, even though that one's fine.
Sure.
I love that
I haven't
David
seen Better
Harbour
Watch
movie.
Out.
I was so surprised by that David Harbour movie, by the way. I thought it was hilarious and really, really fun. I don't know.
It's a comedy. It should be hilarious.
Oh, good. Good little Christmas to get you into it. Anyway, sorry. Caller, Zev, your number. Now we're at your number 3.
No, I think that's it. I think that's
He
the list,
ran
right?
us through his list.
Oh.
His list was mostly redundant with our own.
Oh, I
But,
gotcha.
He needed to shove that knife in there, and I appreciate that. That's where I live as well.
I do not mean to shove any knives. For the
Well,
record.
she shoved one in me, so I'm glad you avenged me.
And it's there. I'm bleeding out for the rest of this episode, so we should probably end up trying to go quickly through this. But Zev, thanks for sharing your feelings. They're important to the world.
You are valid, Zev. That is what Carrie's trying to say.
Zev,
I struggle to be valid, but thank you.
Speaking of valid, though, while you're here, do you want to talk a little bit about the show that you have coming?
Oh yeah, it actually had its final dress rehearsal Wednesday night and then opened last night in Chicago.
Yeah.
So for the past, I guess, 20 months, since April 2022, I've been the music assistant on a production of Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn's Nutcracker, which is sort of what they did was in the 60s, they took the famous Tchaikovsky Nutcracker Suite and just made jazz arrangements of it. And there's a lot of the tunes in their arrangement that I prefer to the original Tchaikovsky. It's really, really outstanding arrangements. And a lot of great choreography in this, a lot of wonderful reorchestrating of the music. We used a whole bunch of other Ellington Strayhorn tunes other than just their Nutcracker Suite. Obviously, we had several instances of Take the A Train, Caravan, and a lot of Strayhorn tunes, especially. So I did a lot of audio prep, score prep, score transcriptions, click track creations on that. It was a long project, went through a lot of turbulence, but I am happy to say that it rocks. I was there for the final dress on Wednesday night for a paying audience, and this was just a beautiful show. I was not there for the press opening because I just flew out to Sedona yesterday and I'm very jet lagged and tired, but it's only going to run, it's running only through the 30th. I think there's like maybe 9 more performances, but if you can get out to Chicago and see it, this is like, and it's funny because it's competing with the Joffrey Ballet, who is doing the original right now. So
yeah, but if you're in Chicago, the Joffrey Ballet during the Nutcracker is like air.
Right.
It's just there.
No one wants to see that.
So if you're looking, I mean, it's essentially very much the same story, but it's set in the Harlem Renaissance. And I won't tell you what my favorite moment in the show is if you do see it. Actually, you know what? I'll just say it. There's a moment where they play the original Tchaikovsky Nutcracker, da, 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 but they play it for about 15 seconds, and then there's a record scratch, and I made that record scratch in it, and I felt so validated because I just hate it. That's like the only part of the suite that I just hate.
Yeah.
and then we followed it up with Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn's rendition of the Nutcracker March, which is magnificent. So.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you're in Chicago until the 30th,
and where do you go to get tickets?
Hope you see it and hope you love it.
Where do you, Zev, go to get tickets?
I can drop a link in the chat here.
Yeah, actually, why don't you drop it here and then I'll drop it in our show notes.
Yeah, it's playing at the Auditorium Theater. So let me hold on. I'm gonna go off video and on mute as I get this, and then I am being called away for family dinner right now. So,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for hopping on. Thanks for the show. Sounds phenomenal. I'm hoping
Yeah.
you can talk my parents into seeing it. For
Yeah,
part of
no,
the Christmas celebrations.
No, please do. Yeah, it's incredible, and it's only I don't know what the future of the show is going to be. So, please do try and see it, and please try and get folks to see it. It's wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me again.
Thanks for jumping on, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, you got to get that in there, Brennan. I was nervous that our
Gotta get what and where? Are you?
your bye.
Your characteristic way of saying bye.
Oh yeah, of course.
She's making fun of you for being from Southern California.
No, it was a
No,
compliment.
that's fair.
She's committing a hate crime against you, Brennan.
Oh my gosh.
I thought she was telling me to fly to Chicago, and I was like, the show sounds great, but I cannot make this happen.
Right.
It does. We'll get a recording for you.
The show does, by the way, have the Sting thumbs up in the chat. So
that is fantastic. Well, thank you guys for joining us and for sharing your lists and your stories, and in some cases horror stories. They are hilarious and awesome. But I guess that leaves us with our ones and twos. Some have been taken, so we'll have to figure out.
It's really it's your number two because the other twos have been shut out.
All right. Well, then it's to my number two, which this one, it's interesting because I do have.
Is it It's a Wonderful Life? Is it one of my other favorite Christmas movies, Carrie?
No,
she hasn't seen it.
Oh, that's right.
I just feel weird about seeing it now because it's like, what if I hate it and then everyone's mad at me?
It will bother me less than you hating the Muppet Christmas Carol. That's what will happen.
Wow, I really didn't know how much you loved those puppets before coming here.
I do. They
guess.
matter to me.
Is your favorite
more than
Kermit?
my family?
Who's your favorite?
They
Muppet?
are my family.
They are. Oh gosh, that's weird. Who is your favorite Muppet? I don't even know if I know.
Oh, I don't know. How do you pick a favorite Muppet?
Don't say it's Kermit.
Hannibal.
Hannibal?
I can't. I can't
Okay.
commit in public.
You can't. Okay.
Maybe it's Gonzo. I don't know.
Gosh.
Gonzo's great. I like Big Mean Carl. He's one of the newer ones. He's nice too.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I don't even know who these people are. So I'm going to jump to my number two. And it's interesting because I do have so much rage still built in me from Zeb's comment around Home Alone. And my eye is twitching. But yet, the movie that I'm going to go through, I literally erased from my brain because it's an absolute abomination to the Home Alone franchise. And this is Home Alone 3. From 1997. I don't even know what happened.
My understanding is that what happened is more or less identical to what happens in the first Home Alone.
I think
it's just with a different child now.
And here's what they tried to do, which I feel complete rage towards. They tried to bring in a cuter kid. It was like, let's find the cutest child actor that we can possibly find. And it just, he's cute. Yeah, on paper, he's cute. But he's no Macaulay Culkin. And this family's different. Everything's different. And it's so discombobulating to try and just sort of get yourself through a movie like that when you know it's just wrong. And so I erased it. I put it in my brain into a box that I'll never retrieve again. And I was enraged when I saw Home Alone 3. But I'm going to tell you, 1 and 2, 5-star movies for sure.
This past week, a video on the former Twitter, currently known as X, went around Film X, and it was from the Siskel and Ebert episode when Home Alone 3 hit theaters. And Ebert's review, I need to find this and send it to you, Carrie. You'd love it. Ebert basically was like, it's like the first Home Alone, but even better. And Gene Siskel's look when he realized that Ebert thought that Home Alone 3 was better than Home Alone 1, it was just this
rage,
disgusted, like he just smelled the most foul, stenchy garbage. And part of his logic was Siskel's logic was like, how can you possibly say it's better? The kid is just so awful compared to Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
So just for the look on Siskel's face when he realizes what Ebert is actually trying to say, I think you would really appreciate it.
I'm going to see if I can capture a side-by-side of that face and my face when Zev said Home Alone and see if it's the same, because I have a feeling that it is. I think if maybe one of you guys has said that, I think I would have left. I think I would have just left the room, but I felt obligated to stay.
And then maybe this episode would have been less than 2 hours long.
8 hours long.
That's true. And we've still got our number ones.
We still have our number ones. So nevertheless, yes, we will get there.
Try
we'll
to
say
try
two
to
quick
tromp
things.
through them. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, Hot of Author says if memory serves, Home Alone 3 is not set during Christmas, so that may be an issue.
There was
And for
snow.
me, my dark admission is that Home Alone 3 is the one we had on DVD, so I've seen it way more than Home Alone.
Then you should know, is it set at Christmas?
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember. All I remember is that he paints a bubble gun black, so the criminal thinks it's a real gun.
There's snow.
And
There's snow outside for sure.
That sounds like the moral universe of the Home Alones, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, yeah. So we're going to number ones, right?
Yes. To you, Brennan, for number
Oh,
one.
Okay, my number one, it is from the horror category because it had to be. It is a 2003. I mean, it has to have been direct to video. No one saw this eating popcorn and red vines in a theater seat. It was a 2003 movie called Psycho Santa. It is an anthology. And you know how anthology movies, there's always a bad one. This one's just all bad ones.
Sure.
It is about a man telling his girlfriend about the exploits of Psycho Santa. And there are 4 segments. One is about 2 sexy ladies who go to a cabin and they be sexy. And one of them takes a shower and you get a tour of all of her body piercings. And then the other one, while this is happening, just kind of dances in the living room for about 6 minutes poorly. She just kind of is gyrating. And then it cuts away and the narrator says, yeah, so they were killed. Yes, Dan, it's a bad movie. There is a way for nudity to be boring, and this accomplishes it. It's also underlit.
Yeah, anyone who thinks that nudity automatically makes a movie good needs to fucking see Life Force and be corrected.
Yeah. And then so that one's just kind of boring, and you're like, where's the kills? And then number 2 answers your question. It's about burglars breaking into a blind woman's home. There's a bunch of non-comic stuff about them kind of avoiding her, and then they brutally drown her for 3 straight minutes. And then you're like, oh no, actually, this is not what I wanted. I wished on the monkey's paw for murders to happen in this movie. And then number 3 is Psycho Santa attacking a young boy and his mom. And kudos for killing a child in the movie. That's always a lot of movies are afraid to do that. Does not redeem Psycho Santa. The mom gets sliced on the collarbone just a little bit. And this renders her so incapable of movement that she then crawls across the floor towards the phone trying to get to it. And obviously she dies before she can get to it. But this scene takes 7 minutes of just her crawling across the floor. And the 4th segment, I don't even know because I stopped taking notes because I was so bored and frustrated with the movie, and I've kicked it out of my memory.
Is this feature a Hungarian art film?
No, it is in the English language. It is one of the most abjectly miserable. This is in my bottom 3 movies of all time.
You have definitely sold me on this, just so you are.
Okay, well, I'm so sorry. It is hard to express how incompetently it is made. It is hard to express how excruciatingly boring it is. And it's just a reminder that the world is full of misery and pain and torment. And yeah, actually, is it the worst movie I've seen? I think it's the only one I've given a 0 out of 10 officially.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah, I think it is the worst.
Psycho Santa, 2003.
Tim's writing this down.
I'd have to reflect. I'd have to pray on that, but I think I could say it's the worst movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay,
bad movie night. Is it a bad movie night watch though? Maybe.
What was that?
Bad movie night watch?
Absolutely not, unless bad movie night is crush your dreams night.
Can be.
It often is.
It can be. Yeah. All right. Well, Tim's got that on his list. It's now on my list for bad movie night. Death by Collarbone.
It is nowhere near on the same bill as something like The Apple or even Jack Frost. Like that is bad movie night.
I know what I'm expecting. I don't know if Carrie knows what she'd be getting into. I know what I'd be getting into, and I find it delicious to think about.
Delicious.
Well, I can't wait for your Letterboxd review.
That would be very, very hostile. I think I am done watching bad Christmas movies, unless I do just kill Mixed Nuts because I've got it on my computer. But I think I need to decompress. I've watched too many bad movies this fortnight.
All right.
Yeah,
well, what's your
and the worst of them?
Brennan, what's your counterpart to this movie?
By a ton, the worst movie that I've seen in years, in literally years, is this movie. Christmas movie directed with quite the pedigree, I will have you know. This is a film that was a passion project for the director, Andrei Konchalovsky, who directed the Oscar-nominated film Runaway Train, was also a screenwriter who worked with Tarkovsky, the perhaps greatest of all Russian filmmakers. So this is a legit filmmaker. This is a movie he wanted to make. He was committed to this idea. It was important to him. And you can tell that it is a passion project because it is not hacky. It is not any sort of movie that feels like it was made by a committee. It feels like a film made by a visionary whose visions were just wrong. They were bad visions. They were very, very toxic and anti-human. This is a film with two different titles, depending on whether you saw it in its theatrical run when it was in 3D and was therefore called The Nutcracker in 3D. The two-dimensional version is simply called The Nutcracker, The Untold Story. I watched the 2D version. It is not possible for someone in North America at this point to watch the 3D version unless they have both a 3D rig and a region-free Blu-ray player. And I might have to invest in that because this was just a gonzo experience. Not even so bad it's good, because it's not so bad that it feels like your soul is like transmigrating out into the ether, just trying to escape this movie. So it's the plot of The Nutcracker, very straightforward. You got a little girl whose wacky uncle gives her a toy nutcracker, and the toy nutcracker in her dreams comes to life and has to wage war against the wicked Rat King. Basic stuff. It's set in Vienna in the 1920s. And this gives it license to do some things. One of the things that it does is to have the wacky uncle, Herr Drosselmeyer, in the original E.T.A. Hoffmann short stories. That's not good enough. We need someone who is a famous German speaker from the 20s, who incidentally was nowhere near Vienna at the point in time this movie is set, but whatever, close enough. Her uncle is Albert Einstein, the noted theoretical physicist. He's played by Nathan Lane. And Nathan Lane is for sure doing a like, "Hello, I am your Uncle Albert" type accent. And so that's where we start. That's like how the film begins. He narrates us the beginning. And then it turns out this is a musical. This is a musical with songs based on the Tchaikovsky ballet, with lyrics by my legendary nemesis, Tim Rice, who gave the world such timeless masterpieces as Evita and Chess, and some Disney pictures that people think have good songs that I don't agree with. Sorry. So he writes lyrics, and so the first song out of the many very bad songs is Albert Einstein singing about relativity to his niece, who is played by Elle Fanning, to the tune of the Sugar Plum Fairy. And it's this complete brain melting experience. So we're like minutes into the film. We are like barely, the plot has not even begun unspooling at this point. So he gives her the Nutcracker. The Nutcracker is just insane, horrible CGI goblin, voiced by Shirley Henderson, who, those of you who don't know Shirley Henderson, she's the voice of Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potter movies. Oh, yeah. So that voice coming out of an ostensibly like playful little swashbuckling toy. And he, sure enough, goes and fights the Rat King, played by John Turturro, and the Rat King's witch rat mother, played by Frances de la Tour. And so that gets us to the other thing that's setting the story. In 1920s Austria has given Konchalovsky the foolhardy bravery to do, which is to make this film a Nutcracker metaphor for the Anschluss, the takeover of Austria by Nazi Germany, because the rats are Nazis. And I don't mean they're fascists. I mean, they're wearing the uniforms of the German army in World War II. And there is for sure a death camp in the Nutcracker. And it's where the rats put all the humans that they have conquered in this like mining facility.
Wow.
So that's where we are. That this is the movie. It's not a death camp. It's just a labor camp. But it's a fucking death camp. It's a Nazi movie.
Yeah.
So you have this like dreadfully horrible musical with this incredibly just mind-bogglingly tasteless introduction of the Nazis into the scenario. and it's also just ugly. Like it's really, really, really bad CGI and really poorly shot. And the solitary thing holding any of this together whatsoever is that Elle Fanning is like, she has it, like she's a good child actor at this time. She's just, the camera wants her to like, she's a movie star. And so she's like making this seem better than it conceivably should be by virtue of only being not very good. Whereas the rest of the cast is just like hideous. This is like a 10 worst movies I've ever seen. It's new. It's not even been 2 weeks since I saw this movie. I should be very judicious in what I say. If it feels like this is one of the 10 worst movies I've ever seen.
Okay, yeah, you have sold
That's
me,
why
unfortunately.
I'm very angry that I
sold.
cannot buy a 3D Blu-ray in the region in which I live.
We're both sold. This is now my number one. I think you've told the whole thing to me, and I hate it more than my number one. It sounds so.
I assure you, to have seen this movie is to have it. Well, it sounds like Brennan's is pretty bad, but
yeah, we'll do it. We'll do a cultural exchange and have to decide.
Yes, exactly.
Woo.
Oh, and real quick before we transition, I wanted to throw out my stocking stuffer of a horror good movie. I totally forgot to do that. Much to Sting's disappointment, I want to specifically call out Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, which is a wild movie. It is mostly clips of the first Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Desperately boring movie, I think, because it's clips. It's so many clips.
No, but here's the thing. You just shouldn't watch it right after the first. So you get a little summary of like the greatest hits of Silent Night, Deadly Night. And then the original stuff of part 2 is totally batshit.
That's fair.
And I think those two things together make it a very nice watch, but it has to be viewed on its own, kind of in a vacuum. It has to be a couple of years since you've seen the first one.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, those sound terrible, and it makes my number one weird because my number one is a good movie, actually. It's actually a movie that I liked quite a bit, but it made my number one because it's the movie that I think is the least in the spirit of Christmas.
I mean, lots of movies are not in the spirit of Christmas. Like Sunset Boulevard is not in the spirit of Christmas.
Well, I mean,
Halloween,
this is a movie,
1978.
There you go.
Yes, but this is a movie that people unanimously, and I found out the hard way after getting a significant amount of online hate after talking about this movie, that everybody believes this movie to be a Christmas movie. And I just don't agree. I don't think this is a Christmas movie at all. And I think it's nothing that I would ever pick up and watch at Christmas to get into the spirit of Christmas. It's the last movie I would pick up to get into the spirit of the holidays, I guess. And that's why it made my number one. But no one's dressed as Nazis. Like there's no little mice dressed as Nazis and there's no prison camps. But there is Bruce Willis. And he is crawling around trying to save some people from terrorists, and that's about all that really happens. And this is Die Hard from 1988.
I admire the political stance of saying that this is emphatically not a Christmas movie.
It's really not.
Even though I actually believe it is a Christmas movie, but I admire that you are using your number one slot to die on that hill.
People were like, mad. Like people were really mad at me, like strangers that I didn't know.
I don't get mad about that. My like weird idiosyncratic what holiday does this belong to? People who do the Nightmare Before Christmas as a Halloween movie and not as a Christmas movie make me want to like eat thumbnail thumbtacks.
Say that to me one more time. People that say
people say Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween movie and not a Christmas movie.
Oh.
Or even a Halloween movie in addition to being a Christmas movie. It is a Christmas movie, and that is all it is to me.
That'd be weird. That'd be really weird, and it's not an argument I'm willing to have right now because we have cracked our first 2-hour episode. So it's a rabbit hole we'll go down in another time.
Okay.
But yeah, Die Hard just doesn't work for me, but I do like it. But just not.
I mean, it's a good movie, but is it a Christmas classic? No, I think the internet needs to calm its tits about that. But I agree. I see the argument. I think it's a fun argument. It's the same way that I find it's fun to say that Eyes Wide Shut is a Christmas movie.
That is a thought. That's a thought. Well, you guys, thank you so much if you're still with us. Again, we have succeeded at being our longest episode ever in all of our years of recording, but it's been a fun one. So thank you guys all for joining us. Our winner this week was Billy the Kid, who had at number 5, Die Hard 2. At 3 and 4, the versions of Black Christmas. I guess there's multiples of those.
Presumably the 2016 and the 2018, 2006 and 2018, is it?
Oh, okay.
I think it's 2005 and 2019.
Okay.
But
the two aren't from 1974 is what's I think on the table here.
Got it. At number 2, the Ron Howard Grinch movie, just like you guys. And at number 1, the most recent Black Christmas. Coming in at number 1, not counting.
All 3 Black Christmases. Ooh, that's a spicy take.
That's the spiciest take of them all.
That is almost as spicy as Carrie's Muppet take.
See, should have joined Billy. Billy the Kid, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com to claim your free Amazon movie rental. In closing, we want to thank you guys all for joining us. You can head out to social media, Facebook, Instagram, and then to alternateending.com for all of our movie reviews, podcasts, and more. Thanks for joining us, guys, and thanks for joining us for the live show. And we'll catch you guys after the holidays.